Hey, without looking it up, I wonder if anybody in this room could define the word whimsical. If I'm honest with you, I really can't put words to it. I can put pictures to it, but I cannot put words to it. The picture that comes to my mind is like a little town square, kind of like Stars Hollow, kind of. Shopkeepers, diners out and about, like a guy grabs like a light pole and he just kind of does like a 2 clicks with his feet, and there's like music playing in the background. You know what I'm talking about? Whimsical. It's a stupid illustration. Okay, it's okay. This is the best I had this week. It's hard for me to articulate it, but I absolutely know when something's not whimsical. Okay? Think about it. Think of Oscar the Grouch. Not whimsical. Grumpy. Lives in a trash can. Unhappy. I think of Warren Swanson from Parks and Rec. I think of the DMV when I think of something that's not whimsical. Okay? Pastor Joe has a great DMV story. You guys should ask him about it later. He loves that I'm going to tell you that. But go ask him about it later. I can't understand it. I can't define it, but I know when it's not it. We've been in a series for the last 7 weeks. This was part 8. We spent our whole summer studying the topic, like Karen said. We've been studying the topic of what is wisdom. Hopefully by now you have some legs to that word, that you can define it, understand what it is, how to practically put it into your life. But as we're kind of closing out summer and we're getting ready for school, and this series is coming to a close, I thought we would approach this topic from a different direction today. So instead of trying to figure out what wisdom is and define and understand it, we're going to look at the opposite of it. And today's sermon is how to be a fool. We're going to look at the opposite of wisdom and figure out what it's not and figure out what a fool is. And so if we know what a fool is and we stay far from what a fool is, hopefully we're going to be walking the path of wisdom. Say, that's not a great illustration, but we'll go with it today. You don't have to say that. I know it's a lot. All right, you guys ready? Did you know that in Proverbs, the word fool comes up 83 times? 83 verses dedicated to what a fool is. So let's today take a look at what a fool is, what they do, how they live their life, and let's just do the opposite of that. Let's pray as we get into God's word. Father, we just thank you. We welcome you. In this moment, we give you our attention. We give you our hearts and our spirit. Would you do in us, God? Would you work in us, Father? Would you lead us where we need to go? Would you speak to us, Father, today? In Jesus' name, amen. Hey, before we jump into the kind of the text or the body of what we're going to be doing today, I just thought it might be kind of fun if we play a little game. I'm going to be throwing a bunch of Proverbs out again today and referencing quite a few. And so in doing that, I would love to see who's the most attentive in our church. Point to yourself if you think you're the most attentive. Nobody thinks they're the attentive. Great! Okay. Here's the thing. We're going to be doing tons of Proverbs today. And if you want to and you want to follow along, I'd love for you to take out your phone or take out a piece of paper and a pen. I'd love for you to write down every proverb that I referenced today. Every one. And if you get all of them and send them to the email info@cotrag.org, I'll recognize you as the most attentive person in our church. Okay? Does that sound good? All right, so it might be kind of fun. The very first one is Proverbs chapter 1, verse 7. Fear of the Lord is the foundation of true knowledge, but fools, everybody say fool, despise wisdom and discipline. The very first thing that we learn about a fool when we look at all 83 of those verses and read all of those in a row and begin to get a definition or the aroma or understand what makes up a fool is this, is that a fool hates to learn. Wisdom is knowing what to do and doing what you know. Wisdom is godly knowledge lived out at the right time. But a fool runs away from knowledge. A fool would rather live after, imply, seek the things that feel good, that are comfortable, that they like to do instead of truth. Wisdom in many, many ways, one of the definitions of wisdom is just godly knowledge. And so a fool runs away from that. A fool doesn't want anything to do with that. A fool hates to learn. A fool despises wisdom. We find out in Proverbs that there are two women warring for your attention. Solomon sets them up as these two women standing at the city gate calling out for your attention. Warren Wiersbe, he says it this way: wisdom isn't some abstract treasure that's far away that we can't grasp it. Through his word and by his spirit, God is every day calling us to the life of wisdom. Wisdom and folly each want to control our lives, and we must make the choice. Every day, Lady Wisdom and Lady Folly are calling out to us. Who will you listen to? A couple weeks ago, I gave you the illustration of my daughter at the swimming pool who's sitting on the edge, and her mother said, "Do not get in until I can help you." And she turns her back and she jumps into the water without a life preserver, and she blubbles under the water for about 5 seconds before we pulled her out. Every day you have the voice of wisdom speaking out to you. And a lot of times it'll come in a time or tell you something that you do not want to hear. Things that you do not want to know. I don't want to know about the dangers. I don't want to know about the things I need to do in preparation to go swimming. I don't want to know any of those things. I don't want to wait. I just want to get in the pool. Every day we have Lady Wisdom and Lady Folly speaking to us. Whose voice will you listen to? Every day we must make that choice. But a fool hates instruction. They intentionally turn away from wisdom because they do not want to learn. This is personal for me. I came home this last week, and Amy had a rough night of sleep, and so I came home and I said, "Go ahead and go upstairs and sleep, and I'll clean up a little bit and get dinner going." She said, "Okay, that'd be great." And so as I'm walking around giving the kids chores, hey, you go clean this, go put away those toys, fix the couch, all those things, I start on the kitchen. And so I'm loading the dishwasher, emptying out things from lunch, all those kinds of things. And I see a measuring container. This glass measuring container is just about halfway full of water. That's not a common occurrence just to have a measuring container full of water in our house. And I had this kind of tickling thought in the back of my head that that's not normal. Maybe I should ask about it before I dump it and put it in the dishwasher. And so I did the wise thing, right? And I did that. No, I did the lazy thing. Because I thought about the long staircase from the kitchen all the way up to the bedroom. I thought about how long I had worked that day, how tired I was. I thought about how ridiculous it would be for me to walk up there and ask my wife if there was a reason there was a container of water out on the counter. So I just picked it up, dumped it, threw it in the washing machine, the dishwasher. Turns out there was a reason that it was sitting out. We had just had a group birthday party for all of our kids, and one of those things was this craft for my oldest daughter. And one of the elements is you had to mix in this chemical into this bowl of water and had to sit for 24 hours. So we're sitting at dinner, and she goes, "Hey, Dad, have you seen a measuring container full of water?" I said, and I was starting to feel a little bit of worry at this point. "Yeah." I dumped it out and put it in the washing machine, and immediately just the biggest, saddest tears come out of her eyes, and she's just sobbing because Dad just dumped her birthday present literally down the drain. Who has two thumbs and felt like a fool and a bad dad? This guy. Why? Because I was too lazy to go and learn. I was too set in doing what was easy than to go find instruction. I'd rather just get it done. I'd rather just toss it out. I'd rather just bear the consequences. I'd rather not care than take the 1 minute, 2 minutes to go and find out if I should really dump this or not. And that is the fool. Proverbs 12:15 says, "Fools think that their own way is right, but the wise listen to others." The very first thing, the characteristic that we learn about what characterizes or defines a fool is that a fool hates to learn. A fool is content with what they know themselves. It is not worried about gaining more knowledge. It is not worried about going and learning if they don't know the right answer. The fool is a person that even if they don't know the answer to a question, they'll speak anyways. It's the wise person. I've heard parents in our church that do this. Especially when I was in the youth pastor and had teens all the time, parents would come in and say, "Hey, little Johnny, We've never had a kid named Little Johnny. But we said, Little Johnny. He's asking me questions I don't know about the devil and about God and about hell and about heaven. And I said, I don't know the answer. But I said, can we put a rain check in this and I'll go find it and I'll come back and we can have a conversation about it? That is the wise parent who's not so proud that they can say, I don't know. They're so humble that saying, I'm going to find the information and come back and talk about it. It's the proud heart, it's the foolish heart that says, I do not need to gain anything else. It is the proud heart and the foolish heart that says, I have everything I need. I can do it alone. So what defines a fool? A person that hates learning. And you are on the path to wisdom if you do the opposite. If you create a learning atmosphere around you, if you desire knowledge. Number 2, a fool hates instruction. He refuses, thank you. A fool hates instruction and he refuses to listen to anybody. Not only do fools hate knowledge, hate instruction, hate learning, they will not take advice from anybody. This is Proverbs chapter 1, verses 20 through 25. It says, wisdom shouts in the streets. She cries out in the public squares. She calls to the crowds along the main street, to those gathered in front of the city gate. How long, you simpletons, will you insist on being simple-minded? How long will you mockers relish your mocking? How long will you fools hate knowledge? Come and listen to my counsel. I'll share my heart with you and make you wise. I called you so often, but you wouldn't come. I reached out to you, but you paid no attention. You ignored my advice, and you rejected the correction I offered. Have you realized that you are made to grow? You know, we have our kids, 3 kids, and they're right in this age where they just hit growth spurts all the time. And so if you just blink, they just get an inch bigger. And so we go around, we haven't seen friends or family in a while, and we go and see them, and they always say that, right? What are you feeding these kids? How are they growing so fast? And it's really nice when they say that about them. It's not so nice when they say it about me. But it's just a natural thing about life. If you sleep and you eat and you exercise and you do all those things, you naturally grow. We are naturally positioned, naturally born to mature and to grow. It is natural. It is a God-focused thing. It is a God-ordained thing that wisdom is all around us. There is wisdom calling in all of the places that we would receive instruction. Will you listen? The fool says, I don't need to hear that. I don't need wisdom's voice in my life. The fool says, be quiet. The fool turns down that part of their life and turns up other parts that are unwise. But wisdom is there for the taking if you give your attention and give your heart to it. Proverbs 23:23 says, get the truth and never sell it. Also get wisdom and discipline and good judgment. Proverbs 15:4 says, a wise person is hungry for knowledge while the fool feeds on trash. This verse is particularly convicting to me. It is a filter that I use to think about the ways that I entertain myself. There's the difference between a good show that's a funny show and the difference between a show that is just trash. And then there's a big difference between a show that gives you life, that gives you instruction, that gives you help, that gives you wisdom. And all of those things are just ways that it can fill my time. The wise person is hungry for knowledge, but the fool feeds on trash. The fool has no regard for what is healthy, what is good. They have no sense of protecting themselves. Proverbs 14:6 says, the wise are cautious and they avoid danger, but fools plunge ahead with reckless confidence. Proverbs 17:16 says, it's senseless to pay to educate a fool since he has no heart for learning. It's been a while since I've talked about my recent hobby. Does anybody know what it is? No, stamp collecting. I'm just kidding. Yeah, I like golf. Okay. And so it's been a bit, and so I'll tell you just this quick thing as an instructional thing, is that there's this thing that every golfer must encounter when they golf. Whether they're amazing or not, at some point they'll find themselves way off into the rough, not where you want to be. And so here you are in the tall grass, there's tons of obstacles around you, and most often you'll find yourself in a tree line. I want to be over there, but I'm here, I hit the ball over here, and every golfer has this decision. Will I take the easy shot called a layup? Will I just kick the ball out back into the freeway, the green, to keep it here where I can have a straight shot to the pin? Or will I look and take a shot between this tree and this tree? I've played with Dave, and that's how he plays. That's how I beat him. Okay, so here we go. And so you have the two shots. Will you be reckless? Will you just push forward? Will you go for it? Or will you take the easy shot and just lay up and get yourself where you need to be? Let me tell you what happens when you take the reckless shot. When you take the reckless shot, you cream a tree. And you know what happens then? The ball ricochets behind you farther than you wanted to go. Or it ricochets right back at you and you have to duck. Or it ricochets and you lose it and then you have to take a penalty shot. And you know why I know all of those things? Because I've done every single one of them. Because the desire is there. I could get there. I don't need to take that easy shot. The wise are cautious and they avoid danger, but fools plunge ahead with reckless confidence. Maybe I should go and ask my wife about this bowl of water. Nah, what does it matter? I'm just going to go ahead and dump it. Simple truth, friends. But every single day we sit at the water's edge, we sit at the pool, and we have to ask ourselves, will I listen to the simple truths of wisdom? Will I listen to the call of wisdom today, or will I follow Lady Folly? Will I take the time? Will I take the effort? Will I do the smart thing, the wise thing, the simple thing? Or will I just plunge ahead recklessly, throw consequences to the wind to see what happens? A fool hates instruction, they hate truth, they hate learning, and they recklessly plunge ahead with no regard to the wisdom around them. A fool not only does all of this, but they hate instruction and they refuse to listen to the wisdom that is offered to them. Proverbs 23:9 says, "Do not waste your breath on fools, for they will despise the wisest advice." We've all realized people like this in our lives. We've all had people around us that are just bent on doing their own thing. From your perspective, your seat on the outside, you can see the things that they're doing wrong. If you're an employer, you see this all the time. You can see the things that your employees are doing, the things that you want them to do differently to be better. If you're a parent, you see this tremendously all the time. Why would you do that? That's not what you want to do. And all of us have probably had those moments where somebody spoke truth into your life. I remember in college, I went to Bible college, and I had a friend, and I was playing some music in the car, and it wasn't necessarily bad music, whatever way you define that. It definitely wasn't Christian music, and it definitely was not uplifting music that would create an environment of life. I remember him just stopping, and it was like there's no cuss words, there's nothing that you generally say, this is bad music, but he stopped and said, "Josh, this isn't the type of music that you want to listen to." And my immediate reaction was shut up, Andy. I don't need you to tell me how to live my life. I'm a grown man. I'm 19 years old. I got mad. I got frustrated. Why would Andy try to micromanage my life? Why would Andy stick his nose into my business? Because Andy loved me. Me and Andy had done life together for almost a whole year. Me and Andy were roommates. We had shared time, shared hearts, shared Bibles. We had spent time together. We had worked through things together. And he knew that music and that season of my life was distancing me from God. We've all had opportunities like that. Don't date this person. They're not good for you. But this person gets me. Don't stay out late at night. You need to come back. Don't do this. We've all had that opportunity in our life. Each one of us. And the fool rejects advice, rejects criticism, rejects the insight from other people around them, but the wise person welcomes it. Proverbs 10:8 says, the wise are glad to be instructed, but babbling fools fall flat on their faces. Proverbs 12:1 says, to learn you must love discipline. It is stupid to hate correction. I hate my flaws being flaunted in front of me. I hate it when people tell me where I did not do well. But I have welcomed that in my life. I trust my wife. I trust her to tell me the areas where I'm, sorry. Yesterday, we were at a flea market. Okay, and so we're at the flea market, and I'm walking around, and all three kids, it's raining a little bit, and they have their umbrellas. And so they're walking around all these antique things, and they're bumping things and knocking them over. It's raining on us. I found a set of golf clubs, so I'm carrying around this huge set of golf clubs. And so I'm doing all this, and then my wife finds a stall that has just tons of books. And so she goes in there and disappears for about 18 hours. And I'm here just walking around with the kids, and it's raining, and they're bumping things over, and they're pulling every toy out, and I'm carrying this huge bag of golf clubs. I finally walk to the car and put them all there. I'm getting a little frustrated. I'm a little bit mad. I'm like, where's my wife? She's probably spending the money on books. And she get a text from her. Hey, I'm done. I've got a box so heavy that I can't lift it. Will you come back and get me? I'm already at the car. Fine. Drop everything off, get the kids out, we're walking back, they're bumping things, pulling them off, no, you can't have that toy, put it back. We finally get up there, getting close, and she texts me, says, hey, they're about to find out you're a pastor, act like it. Okay. Hi! I'm not frustrated at all. The wise are glad to be instructed, but a babbling fool falls flat on their face. Wisdom listens to the people that know you. Wisdom listens to the wise person around you. Wisdom invites criticism into your life, invites critique into your life, invites instruction. To learn, you must love discipline. It is stupid to hate correction. Correction is the thing that makes you vulnerable. It shows you all of your weaknesses. It shows you all your flaws, and nobody wants their flaws on display. But the fool is the person that keeps going on, pushing forward, recklessly, without abandoning, pushing forward. But the wise person stops and course corrects and listens to the instruction around them. We've been talking about David, King David, in this conversation too, and one of his worst flaws, one of the things that his worst blunders in life was the time with Bathsheba. And so this is 2 Samuel chapter 13, and the Lord is sending someone to confront David, to bring instruction, to bring critique, to bring something into his life to make it a lie. I just want to read you how he responds. So this is chapter 13, verse 1. It says, so the Lord sent Nathan the prophet to tell David this story. There were two men in a certain town. One was rich and one was poor. The rich man owned a great many sheep and cattle. The poor man owned nothing but one little lamb he had bought. He raised that little lamb, and it grew up with his children. It ate from the man's own plate, drank from his cup. He cuddled it in his arms like a baby daughter. One day a guest arrived at the home of the rich man. But instead of killing an animal from his own flock or herd, he took the poor man's lamb and he killed it. And he prepared it for his guest. David was furious. As surely as the Lord lives, he vowed, any man who would do such a thing deserves to die. He must repay 4 lambs to the poor man for the one he has stolen, for having no pity. That sounds outlandish. It's like, why can't David just see it right there? But we do this all the time. Somebody rides my tail in traffic. They honk. They give me the bird. They peel around me and drive off. And I say, I hope a cop gets them and takes them to jail. I speed in a construction zone and a cop pulls me over, and immediately I say, Lord, give me grace and get me out of this. If you do this, I will love you and follow you forever. But get them! And there's tension in us where we have no grace for other people, but here we have tremendous amounts of grace for ourselves. They did it on purpose and they deserve to be punished. But for me, it was just a one-time thing. Can't we just wink this and not think about it? Then Nathan said to David, "You are that man." And David confessed to Nathan, "I have sinned against the Lord." And Nathan replied, "Yes, but the Lord has forgiven you, and you won't die for this sin." No one is perfect. We all mess up. We all fall short of God's perfect standard. But the wise person, the person that's not a fool, he hears criticism. He listens to rebuke. He accepts discipline, acknowledges their faults and wrongdoings, and grows. How could a man that was an adulterer and murderer that stole one woman from a guy that had only one wife and he has a whole palace of wives, how could that guy be the guy that is labeled a man after God's own heart? How could the murderer, the adulterer, maintain God's favor and blessing on his family line, even when his sons and his grandsons reject God and walk away from him? Because David had a humble heart. David was given the title of king. He had popularity. He achieved incredible conquests, but he remained teachable. He allowed others to speak into his life. This is not the first time, and there's many other instances where David did something wrong, but he listened to the counsel and rebuke and the discipline of people around him to course correct and be the king, be the person that's after God's own heart. David maintained a teachable spirit in his life, and he allowed others to speak into that life. Proverbs 23:23 says, "Get the truth and never sell it. Also get wisdom and discipline and good judgment." 23:29 says, "Don't waste your breath on fools, for they will despise the wisest advice." 10:8 says, "The wise are glad to be instructed, but babbling fools fall flat on their face." And 12:1 says, "To learn, you must love discipline. It is stupid to hate correction." A fool rejects discipline, is unwilling to change, unwilling to learn, unwilling to listen. But the wise person not only desires feedback, they welcome it in their lives. Later on, one of the Psalms that David wrote is Psalms 139, 23, 24. This is the King James Version. It says, "Search me, O God, and know my heart. Try me and know my thoughts. See if there's any wicked way in me, and lead me in the way of everlasting." Not only does David demonstrate a humble, teachable, contrite heart or spirit, he actively goes and searches for feedback on his life. "Lord, search me. Is there anything that I'm not seeing that's not your way?" Do you go to your friends periodically? Do you go to your significant other, your spouse? Do you go to your parents and say, "Guys, do you see anything that I'm doing that's not who I want to be? If you could give me one advice to make my life better, is there anything that you would speak into my life? Is there anything you see that I'm doing wrong that you think I should be doing differently?" David takes it a step further, not just accepting the counsel of people around him. He actively asks for it in his life. "Lord, search me and try me. Show me anything that is not of you." But a fool wants nothing to do that. A fool doesn't listen to advice, doesn't look for advice, and when things don't go their way, they don't own their mistakes. So a little while ago, I told you about Nora asking where her water was, and she's sobbing because I just dumped it down the drain, dumped her birthday present down the drain. So I'm hugging her, and I'm apologizing and saying, "I'm sorry, I didn't know, I wish I had done it better, I wouldn't have done that." And I had this feeling right there in it. It wasn't acknowledging that I had done something wrong, even though I had a thought of, "You should ask about this." It was blame. Why didn't my wife label this container? How does she expect me to know that I shouldn't dump it? And if I'm really honest with you, I walked upstairs and told her so. "Hey, listen, if you have something laying out, you shouldn't throw it away. I just dumped her birthday present down the drain. I'm a bad dad now." And she wisely gave me instruction and counsel and rebuke into my life, which turned me around. Proverbs 19:3 says, "People ruin their lives by their own foolishness, and then they are angry at the Lord." Have you ever woken up one day and said, "Why is everything going bad? How am I such a good person, such a person who obeys the law and is loving and kind and generous? How could I get into this situation?" only to have the Holy Spirit check you and say, you got you into this situation. You made a bad choice. You plunged ahead when you knew you should turn. You didn't look for advice. You didn't receive criticism. You did something you knew was wrong, but you did it anyway. And these are the consequences. Nobody is perfect. Everybody makes some mistakes, but a fool rejects the consequences of their choices and decisions. But the wise person owns it. A wise person receives the discipline, receives the rebuke, and learns from their mistakes and grows. Remember, we said that we naturally are built to grow and to mature? The wise person that says, I made a mistake and I messed up, but I'm going to use this opportunity to turn and course correct and grow from the situation, is the person that grows in wisdom. But the fool is the person that says, I can't believe they put that sign there. That stop sign wasn't even there last week, I swear. That speed limit used to be 15 miles higher. I can't believe that they would do this. They find ways to blame other people for their mistakes. They find ways to blame other people for the consequences of their own choices and decisions. I can't believe that that person would talk to me like that. I can't believe that my mother would put her nose into my business. I can't believe that that friend would treat me that way, without any regard for their own actions. People ruin their lives by their own foolishness, and then they are angry at the Lord. A fool blames others for their mistakes, but the wise take ownership for their folly. I have so much respect for the person that makes a mistake and then takes full ownership for it. The person that does something wrong, whether they knew it or did it in ignorance, but it says, I messed up and I will take full consequence for this, whatever that looks like. I would rather have somebody that's under my employment. I would rather work with somebody that's not as talented, not as skilled, but has a teachable heart that will own mistakes and move forward and wants to grow, than a person that just can knock it out of the ballpark. Than a person that's just incredibly skilled, incredibly gifted, incredibly talented, but has a proud heart. I have so much respect for the person that wants to grow and is willing to grow, than the person that thinks they know it all. Those who trust their own insight are foolish, but anyone who walks in wisdom is safe. Proverbs 28:26. So a fool refuses to take responsibility, but the wise confess and they own their mistakes. Proverbs 17:10 says, a single rebuke does more for a person of understanding than 100 lashes on the back of a fool. Search me. Search me, O God, and know my heart. Try me and know my thoughts. See if there is anything wicked in me. Lead me in the way of everlasting life. This is the last one. A fool keeps doing what they know is wrong. Are you guys awake still? That's really good to know. Let's do a little poll. Would you guys rather watch a short video or would you rather hear a story? If you'd rather watch a short video, put your hand up. Wow. Okay. I guess I'll take that as a compliment. Okay. If you want to hear a video or if you want to hear a story, put your hands up. All right, so we'll do the story. The video was really good. It's about throw up. You're missing out. Okay. So I used to work in a factory, and this was a stamping factory. And so you know if you're a parent, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You have a little buckle, and it's a little L shape that clicks into that buckle. It's like a red button you push, and it unleashes it. We would stamp like 150,000 of those a day. And so this big sheet of metal, this big press would go, and it just push out a sheet of those things. So huge stamps, big machinery, very loud, just tons of stuff going on. And they would put safety procedures in there for the operators. You have to put your hand here, foot here, and then you push everything, and then the machine goes down. Well, one day there was a guy that was working there, and he somehow got around those safety procedures, and and the machine took off a thumb. I know, you should have picked the video. You're really regretting this now. So they sent him to the hospital. He got all better. But the higher-ups, the guys in the office, corporate, they came down, and they were trying to just inspect the machine. How did this guy do this? How did this guy possibly do this? You're supposed to put your hands here and your foot here, and you're supposed to do all this. How did he get around all of that? And they searched for hours, and they could not figure it out. So they called the guy back, and they say, hey, we've been looking at this. We need you to come in, and I just need you to come and show us, like, how did you do this? The guy says, yeah, no problem. He comes in. He says, well, I did this, and he took the other thumb off. That is a true story. You really wish we had done the video now. Proverbs 26:11 says, a dog returns to a vomit, so a fool repeats his foolishness. At its very core, a person or a fool is a person who knows the right thing to do, but instead they choose to do the wrong thing again and again and again and again. It's a gross image, losing your thumbs or returning to your vomit. But the Bible paints it so vividly because it's so disgusting that we do these sin patterns, keep these things in our life, and we just do the wrong thing over and over and over and over again. I get that addiction is real. I get that that's there, but we trick ourselves and we think that I can handle this on my own. I can be around those friends and not drink. I can watch that R-rated movie and not look at porn. I can do these things. I can be around that destructive speech pattern and not take it on myself. Folly returns to sin, returns to the wrong thing again and again and again. And you think, not this time. It won't hurt me this time. Just a little bit. But the foolish person has no regard to grow. The wise person is the person that says, Lord, help me, because I'm weak. I'm doing the things I don't want to do, and I don't do the things I want to do. The wise person confesses sin. The wise person brings other people in. The wise person turns away from what's wrong and does what's right. James 4:17 puts it so simply. Remember, it is a sin to know what you ought to do and then not to do it. A fool keeps doing what they know is wrong. A wise person, at their core, when you strip away everything, does what they know is right to do. So what have we learned from all of this? A fool hates instruction. They refuse to learn. They do not want to know the truth. They just follow what feels good. A fool has no ear, no time for the person that will come and instruct them and give advice, to give them instruction, to give them discipline, even to give them rebuke. Instead, they blame other people. They blame circumstances. They blame anything else instead of taking ownership for their choices. And a fool keeps doing what they know is wrong again and again and again. Church, let us be a wise people. Let us stay far away from the ways of the fool. Seek truth and instruction. Be humble and open yourself to rebuke and discipline and critique. Own the consequences of your choices and grow from them, and do what you know is right. And you will be well on your way to the path of wisdom and far from the path of the fool. All of this whole summer series can be summed up in Proverbs 3, verses 5 through 7. This is the ESV translation. Trust in the Lord with all your heart. Do not lean on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he will make your paths straight. Be not wise in your own eyes. Fear the Lord and turn away from evil.